Welcome to On Microsoft.
So Brad, why don't you give us an idea of what you've been up to recently, a little bit of your background, what you're doing at Microsoft, and so on.
Well, a little over a year ago, I took a job as the group program manager for a large part of the .NET framework, and it's been a blast. We've in that time we've released ASP.NET Ajax, and we've released the ASP.NET Ajax Futures release. We've done a lot of work in Orcus, obviously, in .NET Framework 3.5, and then just here at TechEd, we just released the first CTP of our .NET Client Futures release, and that's kind of the big feature there is Acropolis.
Okay. Why don't you give me a little bit of background on Acropolis? This is for most of us,
like
myself.
It's a city in Greece, right?
Yeah, it's like you got Florian columns and big white Greek statues.
Right.
What is this?
Well,
Where did this come from?
Here's where it came out for me. Is a couple of years ago, I actually had a chance to go down to Microsoft product support and do frontline product support for a week, just to kind of make sure that I understand how that goes.
See what it was like in the trenches.
In the trenches, yeah. And I was just amazed at the IT infrastructure that was there. The frontline guys take a call, the call comes in, they cut and it does some lookup, finds the user's name, they cut and paste that into another application to find out if they have an account that to be able to get support. They get some information out of there and cut and paste that into another application to find out about availability of hot fixes they're asking for. And there's a lot of like 4 or 5 different applications to be able to serve the customer's needs, and they're integrated via this kind of cut and paste integration.
It's clipboard style integration.
Exactly,
basically.
It's clipboard. And so I drill into that a little bit with, we're like the biggest software company in the world. How come we ended up in this place? And I think it's a story that resonates with a lot of enterprises.
Sure.
It's a distributed IT shop. There's kind of different organizations within there building different apps. They're on different schedules, using different technologies produced at different times. So the end result is fractured. So one of the things that I really like about Acropolis is that it seeks to unify, it seeks to provide a composite application framework for knitting together these pieces.
Okay.
So in particular, it's a framework for building rich client applications that are component oriented. So if you're familiar with something like a cab or
I was just going to ask you, how is this related to the composite application block?
First we hired one of the architects from that team to come over.
That helps.
That helps the knowledge transfer. So we meet very regularly with them. So I would say it's highly inspired by it. We didn't actually take code and whatnot.
So they're not like API compatible or anything.
They're
like
not
that.
API compatible. Although if you're interested in this composite thing, today the absolute best thing to do is go use Cab, and we have committed to doing a rev of Cab to help do the migration to Acropolis when that.
So sort of kind of somewhat similar to what happened with Wizzy. Azimex led to Wizzy, Wizzy led to WCF.
Exactly.
WCF
That's
is
a great.
the path
That's
forward.
That's a great way to look at it. And so like we're doing a lot of learning right now with where is Cab good, what value does it bring, and then how can we go and do a more general thing that's kind of platformized. So we're baking this. We think about the component model of the .NET framework. What do you have? Well, you have object, and you have iComponent, and you have iSite, and it's a fairly low-level kind of component framework.
Kind of fine-grained in many respects.
Yeah, it's very fine-grained. So what would it look like to up-level that a bit? And I think you're seeing a baby step of that in Orcus with the MAF, the Microsoft Add-in Framework. That's the technology that you can use to host out-of-proc extensions and user code within your application. And so we're building on that even more with Acropolis and providing a kind of higher-level framework for that.
So obviously Acropolis is still very, very early alpha.
Super early, yeah. Early.
No commit. No one's signing you. You have no contract.
Right.
Nothing is in concrete here. But having said all that,
when's it shipping?
No.
Okay.
People have long since learned, don't ask Microsoft when
exactly.
it ships, because they don't know either.
Exactly. I'm glad you realized this.
Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Steve. But no, what I was basically looking for was in terms of end goal for developer experience, in terms of using Acropolis. Sort of the intent of CAB was developers don't really build an application per se. You build plugins, components, composite. That will hook in somehow. But the CAB experience, very honestly,
was great feedback.
Pretty steep in terms of trying to get up to speed on it.
Yeah.
The fact that Rolling Thunder had training on the CAB is in itself some feedback. Do you have an idea of what you'd like the developer experience to be?
So a couple of thoughts on that. One is that certainly one of the difference between Acropolis and CAB is focused at enterprise architects. That's kind of and those people like the flexibility and the complexity and the kind of customizability that CAB brings, whereas we're targeting more small and medium business, line of business, kind of departmental sort of applications, where it turns out the problem set is similar, but what they want is some kind of more out-of-the-box solutions, more things that just give me the right architecture just to start with, and I don't want to have to kind of do tons and tons of Visio design on
less knobs, less levers, less flexibility, but less complexity.
That's right.
Okay.
And I think
so what you're saying,
there's flexibility, but it's not as at every node possible.
Right. So what you're saying is that Acropolis is kind of the VB of CAB.
That's interesting. The VB of CAB. We might have to work on that as our marketing slogan.
So, okay, now I will ask you, do you have any rough estimates, in terms of Acropolis? Is this something that you're looking to, just in terms of gross ship vehicle, is this going to ship with Longhorn Server, Windows Server 2008?
That's right, we just got a name at the conference here.
Is it something you're going to ship as part of VS?
Yeah, so it is absolutely going to roll in eventually as part of the .NET Framework. So a future version of the .NET Framework will have this in as its kind of core component model and an application framework. And I can sort of bound the first release by saying it's not going to make Orcus. Like we're sure this is our first CTP. We're here to get feedback. It ain't going to make Orcus.
That would be a pretty incredible engineering feat.
It would, but people at the booth ask that constantly. So I'm glad you realized it would be pretty amazing. So we're not going to make Orcus. And I believe we will do our first release before the next major framework release.
Okay.
So what will happen is very similar to the ASP Ajax release, where we came out with a product, we shipped it, and then in Orcus, in .NET Framework 3.5, we folded it in a compatible way as part of the .NET Framework.
But you expect it'll be accessible as like a standalone download for some time before it gets folded in?
Yep.
Okay, and is the intent to fold it in as part of VS or the framework?
So it's a good point, because there's actually two pieces of it, and we didn't actually talk about both pieces of it. I'm sort of the framework guy, so I'm focusing on the framework piece of it.
Okay.
But there's also a tooling feature. So we did a substantial amount of work with Cider, or with the WPF designer, to make it. It's interesting when you go to build an application today. You say new solution, and you create, the first thing you do is create a form or a window. When really that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is design your application. You want to talk about things in terms of the application, not in terms of forms and buttons and controls.
Okay.
So what we've built is a baby step at what would an application designer look like.
Okay.
Kind of focus at
so again, sort of up-leveling the experience.
Trying to up-level it both from a platform point of view as well as from a designer point of view.
For more information, visit onpodcastweekly.com and subscribe to all our podcasts. Brought to you by the publishing imprints and information portal of Pearson Education.